I spoke about it in one narrow aspect. I didn't necessarily go into the wide implications, but I'm assuming that you would want to go in here. And this is, of course, with the coalitions and the crossing of the floor that we're seeing in the local government elections.
Indeed.
So one of the things I want to ask, because I have pretty strong opinions, and maybe I'm just, once bitten or twice bitten, or in the case of our politics, many times bitten, and just,
very shy.
Very shy. Don't want to have to go through the negatives again, right? With regards to crossing the floor, I'm not sure what to make of it, especially since it's local government election. But with regards to coalitions, let's start off there. I don't know if I have much faith in these things, because I don't see the foundation. And even in other countries like in Europe and stuff, there's foundational ideological reasons for the alliances, and they don't pan out half the time. In TNT, I'm like, these are just convenient marriages.
They are convenient marriages. I don't really have faith in coalitions in Trinidad, because in my short time on this planet, they have made no difference. To me, it seems that they normally align just to get out the party in power, and most time it's just to get out the PNM. That's it. And when they have achieved their goal, they don't seem to have any other common vision or ideology to take the country forward. So then they fall apart because it's infighting for power. Where does it leave the citizenry? We're back to square one again. So I really don't have any faith in coalitions in Trinidad.
I found that also interesting, where generally, and I think we've spoken about this before, and it's come up again, and I think it's important to remind people again, because I believe back in when we had the 1818 tie, and I think that was an issue, at some point a third party sprung up, and their whole campaign was break the deadlock, vote us. And I was just like,
and then what?
Yeah, and nobody responded to it. And maybe that was a good thing, because there was nothing else there. Like, why are you a good alternative? And this is where now I am getting, maybe concern is not the word, but it's more like my opinions on our politics is coming to the forefront again, where we don't really have positions on things.
I agree with you. And that's what concerns me. Now, I am a member of a particular political party, but when I really examine it, it's not that there are so much ideological differences between the two major parties. There are different viewpoints and different policy decisions, which would encourage me to align myself with one versus the other. But in terms of ideology, let's say, like using America, Republican or Democratic, I can't say so much that they're that different, because sometimes you see the policy switches. When they're in government, they take this view. When they're in opposition, they sometimes oppose the same law that they would have agreed to. Let's take the Anti-Gang Act, for example.
Yeah.
When UNC was in power, they were all in favor of the anti-gang legislation. When they became in opposition, they were against it. So it seems that we just change our view and policies based on if we're in power or not, and with the whole goal of undermining the other party. Where does that leave the citizens?
And then perhaps, would you make the argument then that it also applies now? So we have coalitions. In fact, the opposition leader at one point, famously, she was prime minister with, well, no, I was getting to that. Famously, she's the first female prime minister, but it took a coalition to do it. At a time when I expected the PNM to lose, just based on how, and I wasn't that tuned in to the political landscape. But even my semi-ignorant self thought, well, PNM not supposed to win this election. It's just not. But it took a coalition.
It took a coalition. And
then after, it fell apart. And afterwards, it seemed as though the UNC opposition leader did not want to have anything to do with coalitions.
And I think she didn't for a while. I mean, her own former member of her party came out with a whole scathing letter outlining her previous position and her change. And as humans, we are entitled to change. But why? If you are changing your viewpoint on something, I would need you to explain to me what prompted the change. Is it just to benefit you, or is there a benefit to us as a country?
Would you say that in the partnership, eventually the other parties got sidelined?
Yes, that is what happened. I think they don't like to be called third parties, alternative parties. They always get sidelined because they don't necessarily come. Besides being able to pull a few disenchanted individuals, after that they don't necessarily have the financial backing or any other standing for them to really have a say. Like most minorities, unless you're there in a relationship of trust. And a lot of these people, is there really trust? It's basically the enemy of my enemy is my friend for the time being, until you become my enemy, and then what?
Now, let's look at the actual parties in existence. The PEP, they already said, we out, we're going to do our own thing, we're going to make our own alliances. Fine, cool.
Yeah.
I hope the party that they allied with does not come out worse for wear in that situation.
But who's the PDP right now? Watson Duke?
No, the PEP.
Philip, like Pep.
Yes,
right,
Pep,
yes,
right?
yes. He said he will go it alone.
No. He
has
the Reunited Farmers Alliance is now entered,
right.
But
yes.
okay, there's the NTA.
Yes.
There's a party that isn't getting much press now with some old guard individuals who I won't necessarily speak about. Well.
Why?
Just yet.
Let's speak about
Well,
them.
they haven't, so I don't know
or
to
they
what
haven't
extent
put them.
they haven't, said what their intentions are in this
Or
sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, we have Gary Griffith, we have we have Michaela Pandey.
Yes, so last night, I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm like, okay, who are these third parties and alternative parties in Trinidad? And I Googled it, and I found an EBC listing. It was like 25 pages. Of third parties. I did not know over the years.
Yes.
We've had 25 pages worth of third parties or individuals who have put themselves forward and ultimately failed. And there are only a couple now who are, to me, they're almost defunct. Only who?
I mean, there are two other political parties who the leaders still publicly speak, give
MSG,
comments.
you forgot.
No. Mm-hmm. This is just Tobago alone.
Oh, Tobago.
Right? Just Tobago alone, right?
Who is that?
I can't remember. I apologize. I can't remember. I know who the leaders are.
And this is the problem.
Yes.
If we cannot even remember your name, far less so what is your, then we remember your policy.
And the thing is, they're similar to MSJ. MSJ right now to me basically looks like, well, David Abdullah, the leader. He speaks to the media every now and then.
But
And that's it.
At least we know the MSJ, the initials. But what, and I feel like MSJ actually has a sort of ideological underpinning. A few of these other, yes, I think so.
I feel he's just
rooted in labor.
But I feel he's just mostly one of those where I'll just disagree with the government and maybe the opposition leader whenever. There's no through line of which I could see like, well, okay, this individual or party has this type of values, which you could, like I said yesterday, you could basically sum up as conservative or liberal values, right? And there's extremes, and then there's moderates of both sides, right?
Yes.
And for the most part, everybody kind of seems to be for everything and everybody, right?
Everybody's towing a middle ground.
Every political party is pro-labor until they're in government. And then they have to negotiate against unions.
Well, that is, I feel like that is also sort of true.
So looking at these parties, really and truly, now we have ideological reasons why we don't believe in a coalition right now. But do you think that the UNC actually could make such a thing work with like the NTA and all of the other?
No. And you know why? It's not only that they're a third party, an alternative party, and they lack resources, and most of these third parties are comprised of individuals who are actually members of the major parties and who would have had a falling out. So you fell out. Let's use Gary Griffith, for example.
Yes.
You had a major falling out with the UNC government. You were their Minister of National Security. You had a falling out with them. Then you were Commissioner. You had a falling out with the PNM. Now you have your own party. And you have criticized both leaders of the major parties. So you are going to tell me you're going to align yourself with somebody who you've raised a lot of red flags about? It does not make sense. I, as a rational thinking member of the voting public, cannot support that until you give me again, explain to me what has happened to change your view on this person, especially given the scathing remarks you would have made about them.
I think it's one of those interesting things where politicians don't think long term, so they say what they have to say now and they don't realize that, hey, someone is going to remember that I said this about this bill, this law, this region, this person.
It's one thing to say something about a bill and a law, that's fine. But when you go to a person which speaks to their value system, so then why are you now aligning yourself with that person? And you know what's the usual response? Politics has a morality of its own. I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment.
Especially when most politicians do everything they can to kind of show to the nation, I am the most ethical person here. The other side is unethical. Don't listen to them. I am ethical. They are not ethical. Until
They're caught in a
politics
bind.
needs to have a morality of its own. Now, here's interesting. I disagreed with PP's stance of, well, because I said before there was the third force break the deadlock, and that was it. That's all they had to offer. And I saw now this might not be the limit of his campaigning and platform. But Philip Alexander said, you know, vote for us as the alternative, right? And I'm just like, no, that's the wrong way to do it. You know, I said this yesterday. That's the wrong way to do it. But the flip side is, now speaking to you, is there at least some respect to give him in that he's not looking to try to go with the UNC? Because once a third party does that, form a coalition with the established party, what's the point of you being a separate entity?
Well, I don't know if they feel, well, you know, if I join them, I could somehow sway them with whatever my ideological or moral standpoint or policy. Maybe they feel that that's the way to go. Actually, I read something from Nikolai Edwards. He has a party, Progressive Party. Nikolai,
Well,
I think he was just, and he actually was in favor of coalitions because he's saying it gives third parties, they don't have a track record. You need to get into power to show what you can do. So if I understood what you were saying, he's saying, I need to align myself with these people to get in power in order to show you that I can work. So maybe it's just a practical or pragmatic thing to do to get your foot in the door. How can you ask about my experience if I've never given an opportunity?
I believe that he actually shifted to the NTA recently.
Sorry, Nikolai?
Recently, yes.
Shifted? Well, I don't know if he was necessarily, in the clip, the article I read, I don't know if he identified who he would have gone. I mean, the question was obviously posed by...
I think formally. This is a somewhat recent situation.
Okay.
So I myself, I'm trying to double check.
But that is still a coalition. It's still an alignment. Maybe not with a major party.
Not with a major, because
but you're still aligning.
Because again,
and maybe that might be better for alternative parties to align with each other.
To align with each other. I think, and I was trying to figure out, I had this thought, I think maybe last year, you know, what could we get out of the non-UNC PNM camp? Because my whole line of thinking is this, look, we need to have better competition to improve the performance of what, like, even if you're a diehard PNM or UNC supporter, the fact that things, you know, it seems to be like a race to the bottom of who could be the least capable or proficient or efficient at their job, right? It's like, yeah, the country will take it, right? It's kind of disheartening that there's no real competition that's pushing people to rise to the top. And a third party potentially could have done that. So I thought, you know, what combination could we get something that would be a viable threat to shake up the scenario? And I couldn't quite really put it together. I don't know if a coalition, though, of these parties would work. Do you think that that would have been viable?
I think a coalition of smaller or alternative parties can work if, again, they put forward a clear vision and they need to get the messaging out there. Because if we can't even remember your party's name, then the message is not reaching all citizens. So you have to tap all your social media to get with the young people or those who are in tune with technology. You need to go on traditional media. You need to go on. You just need to get the message out there.
Okay.
Clear policy.
Okay, quick question, 30 seconds, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what my question was now. With regards to ideology, a lot of people follow American news and politics, and it trickles down here, right? And we get all up in arms over a lot of it. But even with that, well, do you think TNT would accept or want even parties to have more ideological stances on things where we say, this is our thought process, and you could use this now to know who we are?
I think non-cynical people who are invested will like that. They would appreciate that. It would be different from the same old, as we're now saying, ketchup versus mustard. People want to know what you're bringing to the table. They're cynical because they don't, to them, it's nothing's new. So this would be new, and it might catch their attention.
Well, folks, I can promise you that I will bring teriyaki sauce to the equation, right? My Asian roots, ketchup and mustard, so boring.